All right. So here, let me just show you I don't have the Azules in or anything, so I just have the SPUs. And then when I create it, obviously I create the Azules and then write the textures and the Azules. Oh, also, yeah, the textures aren't there, right? So there's red bricks and rocks or whatever, but I read it from the SPU file correctly, and then get everybody in there. I got the buggy, the frigate, Astro Boy. I think the bear is under him. Yeah, there's the bear, and then there's use the alien. I can't remember who put it in. And then when you press T, it switches the texture of the bear. And then I got the different views. So made this SPU model class, right? It basically, copied over what I had from the cube in general, and then instead of doing all the vertices manually, right, I take in a model file name, but it's not the actual Azul name like the rest of them. I just, use whatever it is, like Warbear, Space Frigate, Astro Boy, whatever the SPU ends up being. And then, I concatenate Azul on it so I can write to it later. I get the SPU name, right? I get the VBOs and the tries so that I can read them using eat. And then I basically just write directly from it, iterate through that chunk and write to the vertex buffer that the model is going to be using. And then I do the same thing for the triangle. When do I write to this? Oh yeah, I eat. Yeah, there you go. And then I didn't change the PA1, but this should be like triangle type or something like that. I'm going to go back and change that and make a VBO type as well, just to have them be separated. Then I go through the TGAs. So the way that I made my TGAs in the what's it called? In the SPU generator themselves is like I would concatenate like a 0 or a 1 based on which texture it is, just so it would be easier to like go through them when I read them from the SPU. So like in the, I'll just show you what that looks like. My system calls look like. So you just do -T and then the actual texture name, right? So then within SPU, I do that, for the first one, and it doesn't make the TGA yet. Because first I verify. Sorry, plug in my charger. It doesn't write to the TGA because first it sends in whatever, that first one, model name underscore TGA 0, and it does eat. And then if that returns true, that's when it actually writes to the TGA file. So I do the eat on it. It checks, see if it works. Then I, concatenate the TGA 0, TGA 1 to the temp name, and underscore TGA 0 to normal name. I don't know why I did this again, but whatever, it doesn't really make a difference. Right? Yeah, okay, so it does correctly. Then it opens that a new file using whatever underscore TGA.TGA. Then it reads it into it, and then, so here's the major thing I need to do is change up the texture stuff. I'm still using the enum, so I'm like hard coding it, which is, kind of wonky, not correct, but I'm going to change it to strings so that a file can have more than one and easily go through which ones it has. And then I, switch it to TGA1, and then I tries it again. So the polar bear was the only one that really had multiple textures. I mean, you could do it with anyone if you write to the SPU that way. And then I just this is where I make the actual Azul file. Just copies over all that stuff and then writes it to the Azul file using all that stuff. It's pretty much the same from last semester. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then I just wanted to let you know so I was getting this crazy error message. I'll show you later, but it's like it was something about some like ghost parameter. It was like a really weird thing. I tried looking it up online and there was just no resources for it from whatever I could tell. So I just pushed disable on it because I had no idea. It was something about the index when it did this for loop, which is where I create the sphere, right? So this stuff, I use your logic and math and stuff. So you like find the farthest 6, in each index, the farthest in each index of like those 6. And then from there, it's a lot easier to calculate where to like do the jitter for the Ritter sphere. So like, is this point out of the sphere? If it is, make that the point. So it gets the 6 and then gets the max distance between those 6 points. So you have like this line, right? Or these 2 corners essentially. And then from those 2, is it in or out? Is it in or out for each point? And then if it is out, then you like make the new one, right? And then that's where I do that. So I make the reference sphere within the model, and then when you create the graphics object, you set the reference sphere. Excuse me. First, you make the actual bounding sphere game object. First you make the actual game object, right? Which is the same as last year. And then you make a sphere to attach to it, and then you set it as the reference so that when you update, first you update, make sure that the object that's around is updated. You do that, right? And then you update that, which is just taking the scale and the translation. And then obviously we gotta add the rotation and whatnot, because right now it totally screws it up. It doesn't look correct, but that's a major next step, I guess. And then, oh yeah, the texture swapping right now is really janky. It's pretty hacky, rather. So I have an input, camera input. This should probably be a normal input, but I have this cycle texture, which right now just gets it. And then if it is War Bear, this is not not the greatest, but string compare, if the name of the object was War Bear, then you change the name of, so in graphics object, I have graphics object texture, flat texture. I have a set name, and I just change the name. So what I'm going to do is have the textures all be strings and stuff, so it's easier to like change it via the enum, because right now it's using enums, which is kind of not possible to set it at like runtime or whatever. And then get that, switch it from the models. So I'm going to have the model, SPU model. I guess you could do it. I could do it with all the models, but the SPU model right now has this texture name, texture enum, and instead of that, I'm going to use a chart pointer, because right now the way that it creates the graphics object from, sorry, not the graphics object. It creates the texture by getting the enum from, or getting the name from the texture manager, add texture, let's try asset name. I'll go to definition. Oh yeah, okay. So I mean, it's pretty janky right now, the texture stuff. But if I have a chart pointer, and I can just make it a lot easier to cycle through stuff and like actually add more and have like a linked list of nodes like on an actual model itself, so that you know it works for more than one and isn't just on the bear. But yeah, so I have the cycling of the cameras as well, and then I got to add the culling. But as you can see, the bounding sphere actually is around the object and it moves with it. And yeah, so that's what I got so far. So obviously keep working on it, but I got a foundation with which to continue. All right, bye.